All right, let's talk about what might just be the single most important company on the entire planet. But here's the crazy part. Chances are you've never even heard of it, even though its tech is basically the invisible engine running your entire digital life.
No, seriously, just think about that for a second. What's the most important company you've never heard of? We're talking about a company that doesn't have a storefront, doesn't sell you a single thing directly, and yet its technology is the literal foundation of, well, pretty much our entire modern world. Okay, so that company, it's called TSMC. And here's what they do. They make this super advanced processor that's inside every single iPhone. You know that little chip that makes your phone a pocket-sized supercomputer? Yep, they're the ones who build it.
But hold on, it's not just about phones. Not by a long shot. They are the only manufacturer for NVIDIA's game-changing AI chips. You know, the ones that are powering this whole AI revolution we're living through? Yeah, TSMC builds all of them.
And all of that incredible, concentrated power? It puts TSMC right at the dead center of the massive geopolitical struggle over technology between the US and China. I'm not exaggerating when I say the fate of this one company could literally shape the rest of the 21st century.
So, to really get why they're so important, you first have to understand just how dominant they are. I mean, we're not talking about a market leader here. We are talking about an absolute, unbeatable juggernaut. I mean, just look at this gap. It's insane. By the end of 2025, it's predicted TSMC will control over 70% of the entire global foundry market. And a foundry, just so we're all on the same page, is a company that actually builds the chips for designers like Apple or NVIDIA. Now look at their closest competitor, Samsung, way down there at less than 7%. This isn't leadership, this is basically a monopoly. And a monopoly like that? Well, it translates into absolutely staggering amounts of money. We're talking over $122 billion in revenue for fiscal year 2025. And get this, that's a nearly 40% jump in just 1 year. The scale we're talking about here is just immense.
And you know that AI revolution we mentioned? Well, for TSMC, that's like throwing gasoline on an already raging fire. They're projecting that their revenue just from AI chips is going to grow by more than 50% every single year until 2029. It's safe to say they are the single biggest winner of the entire AI boom.
So you're probably asking, how? How do they do it? The answer is simple. Technology. Nobody can touch them. That number you see, 2 nanometer, that represents the most advanced chip-making process on the planet. And the crucial part, they're already making these things at scale. Their competitors, they are literally years behind. And here you can see just how dramatically AI has totally reshaped their business. High-performance computing, which, let's be honest, is mostly AI these days, now makes up almost 60% of their total revenue. Now, to give you some perspective on that rocket ship growth, just 6 years ago, that number was only 30%. It's completely transformed their company.
So what you're seeing here is a classic business case called the flywheel effect. It's this perfect, self-reinforcing loop. Because they're so huge, they can pour billions into R&D, way more than anyone else. That R&D creates better technology. That better tech attracts the biggest customers, your Apples, your NVIDIAs, and those huge customers give them even more scale and money to pour back into R&D. The wheel just spins faster and faster, and it becomes almost impossible for anyone else to catch up. Okay, so everything we've talked about so far is this story of unbelievable strength, right? But there's a dark side to this story, a single point of failure. One thing that makes this seemingly invincible juggernaut actually deeply vulnerable.
Because for all its genius, for all its money, this entire global empire is built on a single fatal flaw.
And here it is, 90%. Let that sink in. 90% of the world's most advanced computer chips are made on one single small island, Taiwan. An island that happens to be sitting in one of the most tense geopolitical hotspots on the entire planet. If something happened there, we're not just talking about a delay in new iPhones. A disruption could grind the global economy to a halt and stop the AI revolution dead in its tracks.
Now, to be fair, TSMC knows this is a huge problem. They're not just sitting on their hands. They are trying to diversify. They're building new factories, or fabs as they're called in the industry, in Arizona, Japan, and Germany. But just look at this timeline. These things take years to build. The scary reality is that this insane concentration risk isn't going away anytime soon. We're looking at least another 3 to 5 years of this vulnerability.
And at the exact same time, the competition is starting to heat up. For years, nobody could even get close to TSMC's tech. But now,
Intel is making some real progress. Okay, so TSMC's 2-nanometer process still has a better yield, which basically means they get more working chips out of each silicon wafer. But look at Intel. A 60% yield? That's not bad at all. It shows they're closing the gap and becoming a real, credible competitor for the first time in a long time.
And that huge geographic risk, it's not the only problem. It's actually part of a whole constellation of threats that are all connected. Think about it. They're super dependent on just 2 customers, Apple and NVIDIA. The geopolitical risk is a constant shadow hanging over them. And on top of all that, the cost to make these next-gen chips is just skyrocketing, which puts a major squeeze on their profits.
So, where does that leave us? You've got this story of untouchable dominance on one hand and existential vulnerability on the other. How do we square that? Let's get to the final verdict. You know, I saw one analysis that just summed it up perfectly. They called TSMC simultaneously the most important and the most vulnerable technology company in the world. And really, that's the core paradox, isn't it?
It really all boils down to this tale of 2 companies in one. On one side, you've got the juggernaut, that 70% market share, the unbeatable technology, the insane AI growth, that unstoppable flywheel. But on the other side, you've got the Achilles heel, that terrifying 90% concentration in Taiwan, a real geopolitical target, rising competition breathing down its neck, and relying on just a couple of giant customers.
And so we have to leave you with this final thought. Our entire digital world, everything from your phone to the cloud to the future of AI, it's all being built on this single, brilliant, but incredibly fragile foundation. So the real question is, what happens to all of us if that foundation cracks?